Hi, Beautifully Broken. I'm here with Kellie McGarry, and she is a certified holistic health coach, which is also known as a body image coach. Kellie, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure, yeah. I work with women and sometimes with kids as well, but mostly younger women around the ages of 20 to 40, pretty much. And I work with them one-on-one, mostly through different sessions. And what I do is I support them to love the skin they're in and to get rid of, the guilt with food, the emotional eating, the restrictive eating, just to completely, get rid of the whole diet mindset and to find some practical tools that they can work with to just accept their body and to feel comfortable in their skin so that they can feel more vibrant. That have had eating disorders in the past, even many years ago, and then maybe they became moms and they still struggle with their body and they hide it because it's so taboo. We don't want to talk about it. I think it was around February, I just all of a sudden felt this strong urge to start writing out my story. And I just couldn't stop writing it. It was very therapeutic for me. And it was my story of how I overcame anorexia and bulimia. So I, wrote my story and no intentions of publishing it at all. And what happened was in September of that year, I decided to have an online group. I wanted to just get a group of women together, mostly on Facebook, and I also sent them a daily email. And it was on loving your body. And it was nothing like I've ever done before, but I got a huge response, and it was only 7 days. And the emails were basically what turned into the second part of my book, which is like a workbook. And everybody loved it, excuse me, and they were like, can we do this for like 4 weeks? Because 7 days is much too quick. Yeah. And I guess it was kind of like, a testing thing. I'll see how it goes and whatnot. And I was glad that they liked it. And then it kind of sparked something in me to want to turn it into a workbook. And so the first part of my book is my story, and the second part is the workbook, because I know that sometimes we can read, wonderful books, stories of recovery, and it's great and it's inspirational, but then at the end you're like, okay, now what? I want some practical tools and support to help me. And I'm not saying that what I'm sharing is, the answer for everybody or that it should be a cookie cutter approach. But the tools that I share in my workbook is stuff that I've used myself.
And I have actually started going through your book a little bit, and I found it to be very inspirational. I still have to finish it. However, I think one of the things that are very unique is the fact that it is so genuine. And, how you started talking about your story and when it all began, and even being a young adolescent and comparing yourself to other children. I think there's a lot of books out there that don't really include that. And I think, as far as even just taking out the anorexia and bulimia and just having the body image part, so many women are not happy with their bodies. And I know you talked about that too. And I think regarding the media, it just continues to cycle on and to make that even worse. And you have younger children that are comparing themselves to these TV models and these shows that are getting worse. How do you think, I know that you have children, do you apply any of these concepts to them, or have you seen any positive, if so, have you seen any positive feedback from them or actions?
I don't talk with them a whole lot about their body because I figure if they don't bring it up, I don't want them to think that I'm concerned about their body, especially not with my son. He doesn't show any signs of that. But recently, my daughter, I forgot how I brought it up, but we were talking about the word beautiful. I think I just posted a blog post about what beauty what beauty really means.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think that we shouldn't even use the word beautiful in front of kids, and I don't know why, because I think they're afraid that they'll take it the wrong way and base it on
Yeah.
outer appearances. And so in my blog post, I talked about no, what we really need to do is educate our kids on what being beautiful really means and be proactive about it and talk about the inner beauty. And so as I was tucking her in one night, I think I brought it up and we were talking, having a whole conversation about that. And I asked her, what is, like, if somebody told you what beautiful means, what does that mean to you? And she said something about it means I look good. And so I used that as an opportunity to tell her what inner beauty is. And she got it right away. She's 9 years old, and she hasn't complained about her body at all, so that's good. And I don't want to ask her how she feels because I don't want to bring it up, if
Yeah.
it's
I
one of those
understand.
tricky things,
Yes.
because I was 10 when I started hating my body, and I don't think my parents had a clue, especially because I was always small. I was actually skinny. I just didn't like the shape of my body. So it's one of those tricky things, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to bring it up if she hasn't said anything. But I think the main thing is to just talk about inner beauty, and more important than that, compliment them on other skills, besides their body, like sports or even stuff like their character or listening skills or kindness, stuff like that, so that they know that it's not just about what they look like. And I think it depends on the age too. I mean, more definitely when it's like junior high and high school, that's probably a good age to start talking more about it because I can guarantee you that most girls are
Yes.
thinking that. So, but right now my kids are 9 and 10, so they're kind of in that in between stage, I guess.
Yes, I forget it was what it was that I was reading. I think it was a book I was reading. I don't remember which one, but it was discussing a mother that started really young and was trying to teach her little girl of what inner beauty was. And so
Uh-huh.
the little girl, I think she was in preschool or something, and she ended up playing with another little girl. And the other little girl had mentioned beauty being on the outside, and the little girl looked at her and she was confused, and she said, "My mommy told me that beauty is guts and organs." and and she ended up saying, I guess I started her too young. But
That's
I think,
good though.
yeah, exactly. I think society teaches us that it's on the outside and that we will never be good enough no matter what we do. Even if you think about even the models on TV, how they're photoshopped and how they don't look like that in real life. And obviously, that shows to everyone that they are not good enough for anybody either, as
Right.
far as what is expected. Um, so, as far as how far you've come in recovery, do you finally, I know many of us, including myself, feel a need to be good enough. And it's like a empty void that you
Mhm.
constantly try to fill. Do you feel through your recovery that you've been able to accomplish that and be more fulfilled?
I think I've made good strides with it. I'm still a natural people pleaser.
Mm.
But the difference is I'm aware of it and I know how to cope with it. So I don't take it to the extreme and want to starve or binge and purge or anything like that. I just, you know, I've learned like one of the tools in my book is to just put up a mental stop sign and replace it with a positive affirmation in your head. Like notice those negative thoughts when you're beating yourself down, when you're saying, gosh, I look like, or I wish I looked like that person, or I wish I was as successful as that other person, or whatever. Just notice the inner critic in your brain, because it's not who you truly are. And just tell yourself, no, stop thinking that way, and replace it with a positive affirmation, which normally starts with like I am, like no, I am worthy, I
Mm-hmm.
am whole and complete just the way I am, and that's really helped me. So I still struggle, but not as not as extreme as I used to. So
I think what's amazing is the fact that, most of us, we put limits on ourselves. And there's a quote that says, the world is made up of people no smarter than you are, so why not you? And, I think about you and how you had said, why would I publish a book? Even though
yeah,
you had written it and you had everything, all you had to do was send it in.
right,
And, finding the strength and motivation to do that, you pushed yourself beyond your limits and
yeah,
past the negative thoughts that would, normally paralyze you to keep you away from your purpose and away from helping other people. And instead, you are proof and inspirational that you moved past that, and there is hope for people to do that.
right. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. So, do you consistently practice your own concepts, or can you? I know you just named one of the concepts of overcoming negative thoughts without giving the book away or anything. Could you go over that just a little bit? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I think out of all of the practices, that's the one I use the most. I have a deck of positive affirmation cards. So like somebody could buy them online, or you can make your own, but just like on index cards. And I've read them enough to where I know what I can say to myself. But I mean, they're normally just like simple statements that we can tell ourselves because we're retraining our brain. A lot of us grew up either somebody else telling us negative things or ourselves. Thankfully, I was never told that I was fat. I mean, I was told I was ugly from, other students in school and whatnot. So I projected that onto myself. And after a while of thinking that way, you believe it, right? So the whole point of the positive affirmations is to say a simple statement that's positive, such as I am whole and complete just the way I am, and to just repeat that. To say it out loud is ideal. To write it and say it out loud. And I mean, even if you have to repeat it more than once, just to train your brain, to work those muscles in your brain to retrain your thinking. So that's helped me with everything, not just body image, but like before I got to speak, like I'm a natural introvert, but before I got to speak, I'll do that. I'll tell myself I'm confident. And it is hard because you automatically focus on what you don't like about your body. And for me, it's my stomach, especially after having 2 kids. And so you just have to not beat yourself up for your very first thought. Just tell yourself it's normal to first have a negative thought because, again, it's about training your brain. I think I even say in my book that it doesn't even have to be about your body if you're not ready for that yet, even if you're just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying something you like about yourself as a person. I mean, I like you because you're a good listener or compassionate, and then work that way. I'm all about building those very tiny baby steps.
So kind of build a relationship with yourself is what you're saying?
Yes, definitely. But it was very interesting because I remember one day I was looking at myself before a shower, just, for a couple of seconds even. And all of a sudden the thought came to me, hope I don't cry. Or your stomach, forgot the exact words, but it was something to the effect of, my stomach is okay because I had 2 babies. Therefore, I accept my loose skin. So that was like a moment of transformation, I guess, when I realized, yes, I can accept my stomach the way it is.
And that is beautiful. I know from a mother's standpoint, I didn't know if I would be able to have kids. And so whenever my daughter's name is Nevaeh, she's 14 months, and whenever I had her, I was very self-conscious, and even while I was pregnant, and that's actually what had started Beautifully Broken, because I was looking for a support group, and then I thought, well, I guess I could lead one, and it was kind of a joke, because it was, what pregnant lady leads support group for that, and and really, why not? Because if you think about all the women that are so self-conscious, and throughout my whole pregnancy, I kept thinking, okay, I got to a point of where I knew instinctively I was going to have to do whatever it was I needed to do to have a healthy baby.
Mm.
And so I kind of went in that mode of, I don't care about anything else. I'm going to give her everything that she needs to survive and, thrive and be healthy no matter what I look like and no matter what it does to me.
Right.
But afterwards, then it kind of kicked in of, I need to fix it. I need to take care of it. And, you're right. It's, if you think and you focus on your children and you think of, wow, what a miracle, and I know there's a lot of people that get plastic surgery and get things fixed, and but at the same time, if you can just focus on what you said and accept yourself and think, wow, I gave birth to beautiful, healthy children, and you can focus more and kind of reframe it, which I think is a wonderful tactic. I think, and so, one of the biggest things is body image.
Right.
Regardless of whether you have anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder or any of that, it's still, and even, take out the genetics part. Women are just not confident with our bodies, myself included.
Yeah, there's a statistic that says around 90% of women hate their body. And I'm sure there's a variant as far as, mild to extreme, but I believe it based on, like you said, it's not just genetics, it's media, it's family pressures, it's just natural perfectionism, it's those sort of things that have had eating disorders in the past, even many years ago, and then maybe they became moms and they still struggle with their body and they hide it because it's so taboo. We don't want to talk about it.
You can go through all of that and not only make it past it, but use it to help other people and inspire other people. And I think in that is part of the healing process as well, because you can, start to be at peace and think, if I had never been through that, I would never be able to relate to the people I can now, because I would have no idea how they felt.
Right.
And so, and as far as moms, you're right. People jump to the quickest, easiest fix, and with eating disorders, coming out a lot more now, I think a lot of us are, we want to fix it for our children, and whether we can or not, it's, we can't blame people, but at the same time, we want to believe that we have a certain type of control.
Right.
And I know when I was in rehab, I was told that if I had a child, there was a very high percentage that she would have an eating disorder. And, that scared me. And at the time I thought, if that's true, I'm never having children.
I
never wanted her, her or him to go through that.
Yeah.
However, and I think, there's a lot of moms out there that strictly focus on genetics. And yes, I agree, genetics plays a big part, along with the perfectionism, like you said, and all different things. But, like it's been said, genetics load the gun and environment fires it, that pulls the trigger.
Right.
And I think that's definitely what happens. And if we, we want to help and we want to do all these things, but if we believe that we don't have any control, that there's nothing we can do, our child is doomed for an eating disorder, then, we're at a huge loss.
Yeah, we are. I agree.
And so I think, all we can do is focus on, and I don't mean obsessively, and that's, like myself, that's hard for me not to do. It's like walking a thin line of, do I mention this? Or, I have a 10-year-old stepdaughter, and so she's, kind of at the age, and I don't want to mention certain things, and then I wonder, well, is it bad if I don't mention it?
Right. Yeah.
All we can do is do our very, very best. And,
right. I agree.
So I think definitely using our voice and speaking about the things that we struggle with is one of the best ways into healing.
Mm-hmm.
That way it's not taboo. It's not something that we hide in shame about. It's something
Yeah.
that we can connect with other people and not isolate ourselves.
Yeah. And I think the main thing is just being the example ourselves. So not so much the words. I mean, we could say you're beautiful and whatnot, but we need to accept ourselves first and foremost and throw away the scales. The big thing I like to encourage women to realize that, you know, their body is not their identity. It's not their worth. The scale and, you know, number on the scale is not their worth. And what I do is I tend to pull them away from focusing on their body. I think and my gifts and not being afraid to step out of the box and different things like that. And then, so when you focus on that, a number on a scale no longer becomes that important to you.
I posted an article, Beautifully Broken, that Harvard recently did a study that found that there was a much higher percentage of people that would rather be shocked by a machine than sit alone with their own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, you know, are really afraid of that. Even when we talk about, you know, spend time with yourself, spend 15 minutes. That is probably one of my worst things. I don't know that it's maybe, I mean, consciously, it's not that I'm afraid of my thoughts, but I just think, well, I'm too busy, well, I don't have time. And it's really the fact that I don't love or care about myself enough to push everything aside and even say, okay, I deserve 15 minutes.
Right.
And I think getting there is a part of recovery. For my last question, what would you say to those out there that are afraid of their thoughts that don't? Because I know that comes up a lot in the groups that we have, that people, they don't want to take 15 minutes to themselves. You know, they don't want to focus on the feelings. And I personally think you can go over coping skills and all these different things until you're blue in the face, but if you don't deal with what's underneath, then it's not going to be nearly as effective.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, people could read books, they could do all these things, but if we're not ready to love and accept ourselves, who we are, then we're not going to want to take time out and, you know, practice self-care or do whatever we need to do. And I think it is a lifelong process to love and accept ourselves. But I think it's, I don't know, I think what we need to realize is that it's okay to have negative thoughts about ourselves as being human. Because I think what happens with the eating disorder is it's pounded so much into us. And it's more about a balance, because everybody has negative thoughts. It doesn't matter if you have an eating disorder or what. It's a normal part of life.
Right.
And I think it's one of those things where you do have to like make yourself deal with it. And after a while, the thoughts, it's not going to be as extreme. You know, now when I sit by myself, I mean, yeah, I'm maybe doing other things by myself, but I don't notice a whole lot of negative thoughts. And I do meditate too. And I've learned to just totally quiet my mind with that. But I know that that's something that scares people too, because they're like, what if I sit and meditate and have all these negative thoughts? But I don't know if I fully know the answer to, you know, not being afraid of our negative thoughts. I just think it's normal to be afraid of it. And I think, yes, we do have to face it. I know that people don't want to hear that. But just to know that you're not going to be stuck there. Your brain, you know, we have to trust ourselves. We have to trust how we were made, and our bodies are so complex and intelligent, and we don't have to feel like we're always in control, you know what I mean? Like, we just have to take a deep breath and trust that our body knows what it needs to do to heal itself. And if it means, sitting with those negative thoughts, then you might need to do that. And then after that, distract yourself with something else, or journal about the thoughts. Or if you're creative, draw or write a poem about it, or just whatever outlet you can do so that you can release the negative thoughts too, because you don't want it to be too toxic.
Right.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Well, I am very, like I said, I'm very excited about finishing your book, and I definitely recommend to everybody to go out and get their own copy so we can get to know you a little bit more. And, you know, no matter what comes out of those 4 weeks, I think anyone that works programs, they will at least get something that, if they let it, can change their life and their recovery forever. And
Right.
so I'm really excited about getting feedback from that, and maybe you'll write another book.
Yeah.